Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and in this video, if you are a Skaven fan, then the number 13 means a lot to you, and also, hopefully, this video is an exciting time. We are going to look at all of the War Scrolls that were featured at the Warhammer World Open Day, the American event, and also on a live stream, and look at all the battle traits and War Scrolls and talk about what they might be doing now. And that's what we're going to do in this video. So I've been collating them today, and hopefully you enjoy what this is. If you do enjoy what this is, I want to know what your favorite rules are, what your favorite units are. Drop them in the comments below, because that actually means a lot to me. And I want to thank everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon, which you can join. We've got a Skaven faction chat if you want to jump in. Join our Patreon, get into our Discord, and come hang out with us, and we can talk about Skaven, which is cool. So let's jump straight in, and let's have a look at the battle traits. So if you have never played Age of Sigmar before and you don't know what the hell is going on, you've never played Age of Sigmar at all, battle traits are what you get for your whole army. So your whole Skaven force is going to benefit or be able to utilize the rules that are in the battle traits. There are also sub-faction rules, or they're called battle formations, and those are going to be different depending on if you decide to choose a battle formation. And we'll talk about those in a bit. First off, let's talk about the different battle traits. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Lurking Vermintide. The Lurking Vermintide lets you pick a friendly Skaven unit when you're deploying, and it lets you put that unit in reserve. Effectively means it's off the board, and there are going to be ways for you to bring them on the board through the Gnawholes, or as some people in the chat call them, the Nussies. So that's pretty cool, because that means you can put your really valuable units off the board. If your opponent's got a really strong shooting unit, you can kind of put it in reserve and use it later to kind of spook your opponent. It's also super thematic. You've also got this incredible rule, which we've already seen on stream, and I am super excited about this, called the Splinters of the Vermindoom. And what this does is when you have faction terrain for your Skaven army, which is 3 different Gnawholes, or the Nussies as they're known. And in Age of Sigmar 3, you would deploy all 3 of them. Not so now. You can use this ability if there are fewer than 3 friendly Gnawholes on the battlefield. The effect is that you set up a Gnawhole on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. You do this once per battle round at the start of the battle round, so it doesn't matter who's going first. More than 1 inch from all friendly units, and more than 3 inches from all objectives, and other terrain features. Now, in Age of Sigmar 4, if you haven't been keeping track, faction terrain features have health, they have armor saves, they've got special abilities. Some of them move, some of them even fight. There's a situation where you might end up with your faction terrain feature battling another terrain feature that's moved across the board. It's a wild time. So we'll take a moment to now go and talk about that terrain feature, the Gnawhole. So yes, the Vermussi has got 6 health and a 4-up armor save, so it's quite easy to get rid of, and you would charge and shoot it very much like you would deal with a normal unit. It's got 2 special abilities and a command ability. The first is a passive, and it's Volatile Ground. Models can pass through terrain feature but cannot be set up or end moves on top of it. Each time an enemy unit ends a move that passed through or crossed this terrain feature, on a D3, you roll a D3, and on a 2+, they take that much mortal damage. So that's quite good. You can use it to block your opponent, and then when they try to charge through you, they're going to take some mortal damage. Tunnels Through the Reality is in your movement phase, and you pick a friendly Skaven unit that you put that's not in combat and wholly within 6 inches of this terrain feature to be the target. You remove that target from the battlefield and set up again wholly within 6 inches of another Gnawhole more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Which is pretty good. So now you're teleporting between all of the different ones, which is really nice. And then the command ability, which costs 1 command point, is the Endless Vermintide. And this is one you're going to do all the time, because you pick a friendly non-hero Skaven infantry unit, and I have checked, Stormfiends and also Rat Ogres are infantry. That has been destroyed to be the target. You set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Gnawhole and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. But only 3 inches. And it's once per turn for your army at the end of your turn. Now that's wild. Unit of 6 Stormfiends can get turned up 3 inches away from your opponent as a unit of 3 Stormfiends. And that is not bad at all. I love that. I gotta say, I love every element of that. If you're a Skaven fan, you're gonna be super excited because you don't necessarily have the survivability of like 3-up armor save Stormcast. So that recursion mechanic, the healing mechanic, the returning mechanic is gonna be a big deal. Also, in relation to the Gnawhole, you also have another ability called the Gnawhole Ambush. You pick a friendly Skaven unit that is in the tunnels below to use this ability, so that's a unit that you put in reserve when you were doing deployment, and then you can set them up within 6 inches of a friendly Gnawhole and more than 9 inches from all enemy units, and you do this in your movement phase. So that allows you to deep strike from the Gnawhole. So as a Skaven player, very thematically, it's all going to be about where you set up these Gnawholes. They're fairly fragile with only 6 health and a 4-up armor save. So there you go. We've also got 2 quick to hit as a passive. This is for your whole army. No mortal damage is inflicted on friendly Skaven infantry and cavalry by retreat abilities. Normally, when you retreat, you can take some mortal damage. You just get to ignore that, and that's quite nice. And lastly, you have a once per turn in the army, in the enemy hero phase, you can do always 3 claw steps ahead. You pick a friendly non-monster Skaven unit that is not in combat and that was not set up this ability. This unit can make a normal move ability as if you're a movement phase. The reason this is really good is A, when we look at him in a minute, the Verminlord Warp-seer is going to be able to add range onto how far they move. But in addition, obviously don't forget you've got the countercharge ability. So you're going to be able to move that unit into the middle of the board, then countercharge. That's so good. In your opponent's turn, they're going to be like, hold on, I thought it was my turn, but you're going to be moving a unit, charging a unit, maybe shooting a unit, then charging a unit. So many fun things. This is super good. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the rules for the battle formation, which is a sub-faction that you're able to choose. The Skaven army or Skaven Index, when it's released, will have multiple sub-factions. There'll probably be a Clan Molder one. This is more than likely the Clan Scryer one, and we'll have multiple ones for you to choose from. And that'll be true for every army in the game. We call them sub-factions, but in Age of Sigmar 4, they're called battle formations. This will also give you a passive ability in addition to your battle traits for your army. So it goes where you've got your battle traits, you've got your terrain piece, and then you choose one of the battle formations. You'll also choose a spell lore. You'll also choose a manifestation lore as well. So those are all things that you do at the army list building. The special rule that you get for the Scryer battle formation is the Warp Cog Convocation, and you do this in your shooting phase. What you do is you pick 3 friendly Scryer units and you roll a dice for each one. If you roll a 1, they kabloom. You inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. That's pretty bad. But that's very unlikely. Well, it's not very unlikely. It's 1 in 6. The most common result is going to be more power, where you add 1 to wound rolls for the target shooting attack for the rest of the turn on a 2 to 5, which is great. Really good. Getting +1 to wound is really rare. Also, obviously, you can use this in conjunction with +1 to hit from all-out attack, and therefore you're going to have very effective units. And lastly, on a 6, you also get +1 to wound, and you get +1 to the rend characteristic of ranged weapons. And this means you can turn some of your Scryer shooting units into absolute blammo machines, which is wicked. And Skaven players are always going to take this risk, and this is very effective. From the Warhammer World event, we got to see a couple of other cheeky bits, specifically a new heroic trait, which is effectively a command trait on a character, and this was the Skilled Manipulator. While this unit is within combat range of a friendly non-hero Skaven infantry unit, so looking at you, Clan Rats, the unit has a ward save of 4+. Each time you make a successful ward, though, you allocate 1 damage to that unit after all the damage has been resolved. So effectively, every time you make a successful ward, you're just sacrificing a Clan Rat. And that's pretty good, especially on your large character, the Skilled Manipulator. If you're able to take that on like a Verminlord or something, that could be very spicy, although they already have a ward save. So that's quite fun. We've also seen a spell lore, spell Wither. We haven't seen all of the spell lore yet. This is pretty fun because it does D3 mortal damage to a target within 13 inches and is visible and is cast on a 6. But, and importantly, it's got the unlimited keyword. And if you haven't been keeping track of how spells work in Age of Sigmar 4, the way they work is you pick a spell lore for your faction, for your army list from the ones that you're able to choose, and then all of the wizards in your army are able to cast spells from that spell lore. Normally, those spell lores have got about 3 spells. Obviously, there's only 1 here, but I'm sure there are others we just haven't seen so far. What then you're able to do is each one of your wizards is able to cast any of those, or choose to cast any one of those spells. You can't cast multiple of those spells unless you have the unlimited keyword, at which point you can cast that spell multiple times, but not with the same wizard. So if you had 3 wizards, each one of them could cast Wither 3 times, which is pretty good. It's like a magic missile bunker. So that's quite fun. I quite like that. They also have got an artifact of power, which is called Foulhide, which heals D3 to this unit at the end of any turn, which again would be excellent on a large monster unit. The first war scroll we're going to look at is the Grey-seer, the titular leader of Skaven, or was until really the Verminlords turned up, or until the Skaven god model. That would be crazy if that came out. Anyway, the Grey-seer has got 5 health with a 6-up save and moves 6 inches. Control value of 2. Being a wizard of 1, you wouldn't expect them to. Might be a wizard 2, actually, if I'm remembering that wrong. But you wouldn't expect them to be very good in combat, and that's true because they've only got 3 attacks: 4s and 4s, rend 1. Damage D3. They have one ability on their War Scroll, which is the Warpstone Shards, which lets you cast on 3d6 versus 2d6. If you roll anything other than a 13, then you just drop one of the lowest dice and you choose the 2 highest dice for your casting roll. This is going to mean they're very effective casters, which is really, really, really good. However, if you do roll a 13, the spell is also cast and cannot be unbound, which is great, but you take D3 mortal damage, which is sad. So an incredibly good caster in the Skaven range that's going to be able to deliver hopefully a load of really great spells when we see them, especially maybe those endless spells from the manifestation lore could be super cool. Next unit we're going to look at are the Rat Ogres. They have got 4 health for each model in the unit of 3. And these obviously come in that launch box. They've got a 5-up save, which is a little bit disappointing. But don't forget, they've got the infantry keyword. So if you did have a big unit of Rat Ogres, you are potentially going to be able to bring half the unit back when they're dead. They do slap, though, in close combat. They have got 5 attacks each. 5, so that's 15 attacks from a unit of 3. Hitting on 4s, which is a little bit sad, but wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. Absolutely kick-ass. One model in 3 is also armed with a warp-fire gun, which is a 10-inch range shot with 2d6 shots, hitting on 2s, but sadly wounding on 4s. Rend 2, damage 1. You could also shoot into combat, and that is legitimately not a bad profile. A unit of 6 Rat Ogres doing 4d6 shots, wound on 4s being the tough part, is pretty fun. They also have this really fun rule called Unleashed Warp Fury, where you inflict D3 mortal damage on this unit, then add 1 to the attacks characteristic that shoots melee weapons for the rest of the turn. So that's 6 attacks per model, 18 attacks from 3. These are very scary. And you know what? Even 12 health in their damage pool, in their health pool, is pretty good from a unit of 3 with that 5-up save being a bit disappointing. But they're going to be really good. They're really, really good. They're super punchy. And yeah, really like these. I think one of the units most people have been excited about has been the Rattling Warp-blaster. This is our artillery gun, and it's very fun. It's got 7 health with a 4-up armor save. That 7 health is going to be very important, and moves 6 inches. The important part about this, obviously, is that it is a gun platform, so its melee combat isn't important. The important part is the hail of warpstone bullets that shoot 20 inches, and obviously it moves 6. That's going to be 26 inches. And it shoots 3d6 plus 3 shots that are critical auto woundos. Critical auto woundos. So any 6s to hit are going to be an auto wound. It then wounds on a 3, and it's got rend 1, damage 1. It's got 2 special abilities. You add +1 to hit rolls if you're shooting at a unit with 10 or more models, thanks to overwhelming fire. And then you have the once per turn ability that you can only use for your army. So if you did end up having 2 of these war machines, this ability is only going to apply to one of the 2. As we've talked about previously, they're doing this multiple times. So you kind of say to yourself, I want to take 4 or 5 of these, but you're only going to be able to benefit from this special ability once. The special ability takes you up from 3d6 plus 3 to 6d6 plus 3, which, if you max it all out, is 39, which is divisible by 13. So you've got 3 lots of 13 there, which is a Skaven number. I'm sure someone worked that out. Anyway, so 6d6 plus 3 shots. However, any 1s to roll to hit, and you'll take a mortal damage and therefore, if you take 7 of them, this is going to die immediately. Now, that's pretty funny, and I absolutely love that. It's not got great rends, so it's not going to be able to punch through a ton of stuff, and it does hit on a 4, although you could obviously use the all-out attack command ability, so it could hit on 3s. So you could do a lot of shots, and I still think even if you can only go for 66 shots on one of them, taking 4 of these would be so funny. That is 12d6 plus 12 shots, just literally warp-stoning the board. Very fun, very thematic, very cool. Next 2 units you get in the launch box as well, the Warlock Engineer and the Warlock Jezzails. The Warlock Engineer is a hero, but not a wizard or a priest. He's got himself a little warp musket. He's got 5 health and a 5-up armor save, and his Warlock musket has got 2 shots that are 3s and 3s, Rend 2, D3, but they also have critical auto woundo. So any 6s to hit are going to auto wound. And the Rend 2 is really nice, and 24-inch range is pretty good. They have 2 special abilities. He's got more warp energy, where you roll a dice on a 2+, set up the damage characteristics unit's Warlock musket to 3 for the rest of the turn. However, on a 1, you inflict D3 mortal damage to this unit. But that's obviously probably something you're always going to do, just to go for that flat 3. And even D3 mortal damage is going to kill him straight away. And then, pretty excitingly, he's got a once per turn in the army ability. Again, multiple Warlock Engineers is going to benefit you. And you pick a visible enemy hero to be the target. For the rest of the turn, this unit's friendly Warlock Jezzail units, wholly within 13, can ignore the effects of the guarded hero ability, which means you wouldn't be able to shoot them when picking the target for their shooting attacks. This is pretty fun, because when we look at the Warlock Jezzails, their shooting attack is also 24 inches. 2 shots each. They come as a unit of 3, so that's going to be 6 shots from the whole unit. They hit on 4s, they wound on 3s, and they're Rend 2 damage 2 with critical auto wound, just like the Warlock musket. They also have the Warpstone sniper ability, and if this unit is not moved this turn, then they get +1 to hit rolls. So you're going to be able to snipe out enemy characters pretty nicely, in my opinion. The Warlock Jezzails, though, are fairly fragile, with 2 health each on a 4-up armor save, and there's 6 wounds in a unit of 3, but you should be able to keep them at a distance from your opponent, not prosecutors. Screw you, Oscar. But you should be able to keep them at a distance from your opponent and be able to snipe out their characters. Is this going to be as good as just pumping out shots, as you saw from the War Machine? Time will tell. Let me know what you think of this unit in the comments. Also in the starter box is our Claw Lord on Gnaw-beast. So a Skaven on top of a kind of like longer Skaven, I think. 7 health with a 4-up armor save. And don't forget, we've got ways to give them ward saves as well. Moves 9 inches, pretty good. Is predominantly a combat character, which is nice. Does have a shooting attack, though, that Rattling pistol that can shoot into combat, but it also shoots 10 inches. D6 shots, 3s, Rend 1, damage 1, and also is critical auto woundo, which is pretty nice. So, although you do wound on 3s, which is fine. His big combat attack, if there is one, is 5 attacks, 3s, wounds on 4s, which is a bit rough, only Rend 1, but then is damage 2. He has a special ability called the Cornered Rat, where if he takes any damage, then you add 3 attacks to the attack characteristic for the halberd. So it's going to be 8 attacks, hitting on 3s, wound on 4s, Rend 1, damage 2, which is pretty nice. And then his Gnaw-beast, which he rides in on, it's got 4 attacks hitting on 4s, wound on 3s, Rend 1, damage D3. So quite a lot of attacks in melee can come out of this Claw Lord. He also has a ability you can do in the hero phase. Their ability that they're able to do in the hero phase, and that's in your hero phase, is the Cruel Commander ability. You pick a friendly, non-hero Verminous infantry unit, wholly within 13 inches of this target. You inflict 1 mortal damage on them. However, you then add 5 to the target's control characteristic, which is quite a nice little combo. Your opponent hasn't really expected you to be able to grab the objective. Maybe you don't have enough wounds in the unit. Immediately you've added +5. That's really fun. That's everything for the Claw Lord on Gnaw-beast. Let me know what you think about the rules. Next, you're going to talk about the beefcakes of the Skaven, the Stormfiends. These are always really popular and always also very difficult to talk about because they have got a lot of options when you're building them. So hopefully this video helps a little bit. We'll do another video on this in the future. So there's a unit of 3. Stormfiends come as a unit of 3, and each model has got 6 health with a 4-up armor save, which is pretty tanky. 18 wounds on a 4-up save. They've moved 6 inches and they've got a control value of 2 per model. Now, you basically either build these as either a shooting unit or a fighting unit, or maybe even like a little bit of a hybrid. And it does tell you that what you have to choose from below. 1/3 of the models have to either have warp-fire projectors and clubbing blows, which is kind of its default melee profile, wind launchers and clubbing blows. And then rattling cannons or grinder fists, and then doomflayer gauntlets or shock gauntlets. I think the Doomflayer Gauntlets and Shock Gauntlets is an easy answer because the Doomflayer Gauntlets, I think, are the best with 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wound on 2s, rend 2 damage D3 with +1 damage on the charge. The Shock Gauntlets are quite fun because any critical hit is going to make D6 hit rolls. We used to call them exploding sixes, and for some reason there isn't a critical thing on their shooting line like you would see on the Doomflayer Gauntlets. So that's kind of an odd thing. So there's already stuff that exists outside of the critical hitto ecosystem. But you generate a D6 hits from each 6 that you roll that's a critical, which is fun. So you've got 4 attacks. If you roll 4 6s, you would do 4d6 hit rolls and then, 4d6 wound rolls. I hope that explained that correctly. There's also a special ability on the Grinder Fist weapon where you can deep strike this unit if they've been put in reserve anywhere on the board 9 inches away from the enemy. And that's kind of okay, but their profile isn't very good. And of course, you can already use the Gnawholes to deep strike as well. So I really like the Rattling Cannons, which are 3d6 shots, hit on a 4, wound on 3, rend 1, damage 1. And I would probably buddy them up with wind launchers, specifically because if you're going to do +1 to hit, you're probably going to want to do it on the Rattling Cannons, the wind launchers, both which hit on 4s. The wind launcher's got great range as well. It's rend 2 and it's D3 damage. Whereas the warp fire projector, which has got shoot into combat, which is really fun, is 2d6 shots at 10 inches, but hit on 2s. So +1 to hit would be wasted there. Wound on a 4, rend 2, damage 1. Don't forget, in the Warp Cog Convocation, you could make it so all these are +1 to wound, so it can be really effective. In the combat profile, I love Doomflayer Gauntlets. I think they're very good. 5 attacks, hit on 4s, but can be obviously +1 to hit. Wound on 2s, rend 2 damage, D3, +1 damage on the charge. I think they're my favorite. So Stormfiends looking really good. You can deep strike them off the board, and because they're infantry, ladies and gentlemen, if you take a big unit of 6, they get wiped out. You're going to be able to bring 3 back thanks to that Gnawhole command ability, which is super cool. A good thing to point out from the chat is that the being able to tunnel up using the Grinder Fist is done in any movement phase, including your opponent's movement phase, which is really spicy. That's very, very interesting. Pretty exciting news for all the Master Molder fans, which is a model that we think went away because they were a Finecast model. So probably going to get a new Master Molder model for the Skaven, which is super exciting. Okay, so what does it do? It's a buff character. It doesn't really do much. It's got 5 health, got a 6 up armor save, so very fragile. Moves 6 inches. Has got a kind of fun combat attack, and by fun I mean it doesn't really have anything. But it has got 2 abilities, and these are both important. The first one is the end of any turn. The Lord of Flesh Grafting. You can pick a molder unit wholly within 13 inches, and you can heal 3 to the target, and that is super spicy. I love that a lot. Heal 3, especially in combination with other healing mechanics that we might see, like on the Pit Abomination. A lot of healing, which is very fun. Also, doesn't seem like this is locked, so potentially you could do this multiple times with multiple... Quote me if I'm wrong. End of any turn, pick another friendly unit. I feel like you could have multiple Master Molders healing 3 to multiple targets, which is pretty fun. But maybe that'll come out in the wash. And then we have a really fun ability in your charge phase. So in your charge phase, Tyrannical Packmaster, pick another friendly molder unit within this unit's combat range to be the target, looking at you. Maybe our Rat Ogres. I don't think Stormfiends might have the molder keyword as well. We need to check. If they do, that means you can deep strike these guys 9 inches away, and then in your charge phase, bosh this on. Now you've got a 7-inch charge, spend a command point on a reroll, and go fighting. And that seems pretty good there, in my personal opinion. So his job only is to make them boys go, and he's going to do good at it. An interesting thing that's come up with the chat, which I think is quite fun, is if you took multiple Master Molders, because normally it's any army, You can only use an ability once in an army. But if you were to take 2 Master Molders, I currently don't know what is stopping you from adding +2 to your charge rolls 2 times. So you can be like +4 to charge, which, if that ends up being pretty good, you're going to have incredibly fast Skaven. Effectively, they're going to be flying across the board. So that's pretty fun. But again, I don't know if that's going to work out. We'll find out. But if you have an interpretation that's different, please tell me. Our next unit is a Verminlord Warp-seer, which is pretty fun, seeing what the Verminlords look like. 13 health with a 4-up save, and instinctively a 5-up ward save baked in. It's pretty survivable. Got a control value of 5 as well, which I really like. Very good for contesting those objectives. And then moves 10 inches, so it's fairly rapid as well. It's also a level 2 wizard, which is quite good, and it's got its own spell called Tectonic Splintering, which is very effective as a debuff piece. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches, and if you cast the spell on a 7, then until the start of the next turn, subtract 1 from the number of dice rolled when making a charge roll, so they only charge on 1d6, which is very good. Very good control piece, incredibly effective. He has, if you've ever seen the Warp-seer, got a cool little orb that he carries around in his hand, and this has got 2 special abilities. One, where he's carrying it around and it's not been used. He has Divine the Future, and while this unit has it, add 2 inches to the distance friendly units can move when using the Always 3 Claw Steps Ahead ability, which is the ability to move in the enemy hero phase using your move characteristics. So add an additional +2, then maybe do the counter charge command ability. Pretty spicy, in my opinion. Then he has a once per battle ability where he uses the orb, but he throws it, just yeets it at the opponent. Pick an enemy unit that they're in combat with to be the target. You roll a dice. On a 2+, you inflict that many mortal wounds, so up to 6 mortal damage. But that means you can no longer use the Divine the Future ability. And then once per turn in the combat phase, but only once per turn for the army, so having multiple Warp-seers is going to not benefit you. You pick an enemy unit in combat, and this unit, with this unit to be the target, on a 4+, that unit strikes last. So make units around you strike last, help units in your army move faster, do some pretty... Oh, he's also got a weapon. I should have talked about that. The Doomglaive, which is 6 attacks that hit on a 4, which is super sucky. Wounds on a 2. Ren 2, damage 3. So probably won't do tons of damage. So I wouldn't describe him as a combat character. And therefore, pretty interesting. But I would like to know what you think. Roll out 6 attacks hitting on 4s. Ren 2, damage 2. Wound on a 2, Ren 2, damage 3 a few times. Tell me how you feel about it. And then let me know what you think of his special rules. Looking at a monstrous war scroll now, the Pit Abomination is so good. 14 health with a 5-up armor save. So you think not that survivable. But don't worry, it's all about the regeneration with these guys. Movement is a bit random, but it's better than it was previously. D6 plus 5 inches. Is quite nice. Minimum of 6, maximum of 11 is pretty good. It's got an incredible weapon profile. 13 attacks that do hit on 4s, so womp, but could hit on 3s. Hit on 3s, wound on 2s, Ren 2, damage 2. And if you're fighting against infantry, my goodness, it's going to be Ren 3. It is going to chop infantry up. If it does get battle damaged, i.e. takes down 10 damage, it goes down from having 13 attacks to 8 attacks. No more monster profiles in Age of Sigmar 4th edition. So that's quite good. And it's got a once per turn army ability in any combat phase. So you can do this in every combat phase, in every turn. However, you aren't going to be able to do this with multiple hell pits because you're going to do it once per turn per army. And what you do is you pick an enemy infantry unit in combat range with this unit and roll a dice. On a 3+, you roll a dice for each model in the target unit, and for each 5+, you inflict 1 mortal wound. If there are 60 models in the enemy army, you can roll 60 dice and need 5-ups for a mortal. It's insanely good, on top of its output anyway. This guy hates infantry, hates them. It has this amazing ability at the end of any turn where you can heal D6 health to the unit. And that's the end of any turn, so that'll be each turn. So that's 2d6 over a battle round. Don't forget, if you've got a Master Molder, you can add +3 to that. Maybe if you've got 2 Master Molders, you can add 6. We don't know right now, but that's pretty effective. And they have, quite excitingly, this final ability called Too Horrible to Die, where if they take their last health and they could die, you roll a dice. On a roll of a 1, you're dead. you're dead, Dave, and you're just dead. On a roll of a 2 to 4, you roll a d3 for each enemy unit within combat range. On a 2+, you inflict that much mortal damage because rats emerge from the ground. However, on a roll of 5 to 6, this unit is not destroyed and any remaining damage points are gone. And then you heal d6 to this unit, and that is incredibly cool, especially then at the end of the turn when you can heal an additional d6. I gotta say, this feels like it's very strong. There's a lot of output here, lot of output. And that's it for all the Skaven stuff that we've seen so far. Obviously, when we come around to having all of the information in front of us, we'll be doing a proper deep dive, list reviews, tech analysis, all of those things, and hopefully you'll join me for all of them. If you've liked the video, best way to help support the show is like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, and you could also join our Patreon on The Honest Wargamer, because then you get into our Discord where we've got faction chats, which is cool, and it would be fun for you to do that. Either way, I'm going to be making videos about as much Age of Sigmar 4 as I can, and I want to thank the chat and everyone else for helping me do these videos. Hope you've enjoyed them, and thanks very much for watching The Honest Wargamer.